Hey everybody, it's Cauliflower Man here. I'm bringing you another Helix build. Today we're looking at Galilea from Battleborn. If you look on the left side, Galilea is a territorial brawler and she's complex. I would agree with all of these things. She's territorial in that she's a defensive player. You basically hold down one area. She's got a shield, so instead of retreating, you'll lift that shield up, and then she can also throw that shield and stun people. So if people try to push at you, you stun them, do a bunch of damage, just get them to back away. She's a brawler because she's a melee character, and then she's complex just because she's got so many little attributes that are added to her skills later on, and we'll go ahead and cover those. So on the right side, if we look at her skills, the first one is her passive. It's corruption. Corruption's not all that useful, and it's not something you pay any attention to, except later on you'll get an extra 21 health regen when your corruption is at full, so you increase the corruption just by doing skills and attacking enemies. So you'll increase her corruption by attacking minion waves generally, and then that'll increase your health regen, so you'll be able to heal up a little bit. Below her corruption is her primary attack. That's her great sword. The great sword is just one big sword that does a lot of damage to any enemies within range. It's very easy to hit criticals, and it's great to use against minions. Also remember, at level 3 at full health you'll end up making that great sword do about double damage, and that's really what makes Galilea take off. You have to be at full health for that, so you really need to have a healer in order to make that build work, but we'll get into that later. Below her great sword is her secondary attack, and her secondary attack, it's not actually an attack, it's actually a block. All you do is you lift her shield and it'll block 1000 damage. You move a little slower while you're doing it, but instead of running away, just use that shield to block 1000 damage. Once the shield gets taken out, it'll take about 3 seconds for that to start recharging, but that's a lot of damage that you can block playing as Galilea. Below her great shield is her shield throw. This is a bit of a double-edged sword. It's her best opening move, the shield throw, or not necessarily opening move, but opening move or killing strike, something to engage an enemy. If you stun them, obviously you can do a lot of damage, if not kill that enemy. However, when you throw the shield, if you don't pick it up, you don't have the shield. So when you throw the shield, you have to go and pick up the shield in order to block with it, and blocking is one of the most important things to do as a Galilea. So you really want to make sure that when you throw that shield, that there's either a wall behind the enemy, or if you miss, the shield won't go far, because if you end up missing and the shield goes way back behind enemy lines, you're going to be stuck without your shield for 20 seconds, and that's terrible as a Galilea. That'll really throw you off, and it's going to make you a lot less effective for your team. Now below shield throw is Desecrate. Desecrate's just an area of effect skill that activates. It'll amplify damage to all enemies that are within it, so any enemy that steps inside of it is going to take more damage. Later on you can also add things such as slow, silence, wound, things of that nature, or even health regen to Desecrate. So you have to pay attention to the levels that you choose as you're playing, and then play according to those choices, obviously. But just always remember with this Desecrate that the area of effect sits there for a full 8 seconds, and it's just this black area of effect. So that black circle you see on the ground when you press the button for Desecrate, that is what Desecrate is. And anyone standing inside the black field has its effects put onto them. Now below Desecrate is Galilea's ultimate. It's called Abyssal Form. During this, Galilea basically turns into a shadow. It's almost impossible to kill her, and she regenerates health, so it's used defensively. The one thing to remember about this is that it's one of the few ultimates that does almost no damage. It does a little bit of area of effect damage, but not much at all. Its main use is just to get out of there. Galilea does all of her damage through her primary attack for the most part, and then everything else is just about keeping her alive and making sure that she plays very defensive. So now that we understand the basic character information for Galilea, let's go ahead and look at her levels. Alright, so level 1 here, all of these choices are pretty good. I generally go with the center choice, and we'll get to that, but on the left side, whenever your shield throw hits a target, its cooldown is reduced by 5. This is very good if you're accurate with the shield throw. I'm not all that accurate, so I just don't use it. Being able to stun a bunch of people is good, but like I said, I generally speaking try to use that shield defensively, so I like to hold on to that shield as much as possible, so the cooldown is not a big issue for me. The center choice is the one that I generally use. The pole, the reason I like to use the pole is it stops enemies from using a lot of different skills and ultimates. So like let's say you hear an Arendi about to use an ultimate. If you pull her before her ultimate activates, she won't use that ultimate. And this happens for a bunch of different characters and a bunch of different ultimates and skills. So that pull, it almost acts like its own silence. And then beyond that, whenever you have an enemy that is singled out who's trying to run away from you, you can pull them towards you. Or if you have an enemy who's higher ground than you, if you get under them but next to whatever it is that they're standing on and you press desecrate and pull them, it'll pull them off the top, so it'll pull them down towards you. So that pull just gets very dynamic, and it's really good for engaging enemy teams and getting somebody singled out and isolated. And then on the right side, the wound. Wound is one of my favorite skills, and I would usually like to go with the wound on this desecrate. The reason I don't is I guess the third aspect of the pull that I didn't talk about that I think is one of the best aspects, and it's something that people don't really think about for pull, is you can use that pull on minion waves, and it'll pull every single minion right in front of your face. So if you try and attack a minion wave without using pull, you're only going to hit 3 or 4 of them at most if everything works out perfectly. But if you use the pull first, you're going to hit all 5 of the minions, and you're going to just absolutely destroy them. So I really like using that pull. Now let's go ahead and look at level 2. So on level 2 here, on the left side, the shield throw will bounce around to many targets. I don't like that just because you really want that shield in your hand, and if it bounces around, it's hard to tell where it went. And then on the right side, adding that wound to people you stun. Like I said before, wound is great, and this just makes it so that anybody you stun, not only are they stunned, but they're not going to be healed for 5 seconds, so it's going to be real hard for them if they get close to death for them not to die. So I like to get that wound on level 2. And then level 3 here. Level 3's got a bunch of different good choices. All of them are solid. I usually like to go with the one on the right just because I usually pair Galilea with a healer. You want to play Galilea with a good healer, but then if you have a good healer, I usually choose Miko with Galilea, but if you have a good Miko on a Galilea, you can keep her at full health, and that'll bump her damage 67 per strike. So that's basically doubling her damage. It's nuts how much damage a Galilea can do at full health when you take the choice called It's Dangerous to Go Alone. Now on the left side, the increased corruption is good just because you'll block damage, and that just builds up without you having to do anything. And then the center one, that's good just because you don't have to be at full health to get that extra damage per second. But like I said, I really like to get that extra damage per second when Galilea is at full health. Level 4 now. At level 4, on the left side is healing per second for a desecrate, the center is silence, and the right is just damage over time. All 3 of these are good, but they all work better for different situations. The one on the left helps to keep Galilea at full health, and it also helps to heal some of your allies. You'll heal your own minions more than you'll heal allies, and 30 healing per second for your minions can add up to quite a bit. It's quite a lot, so it really can help keep your minion wave alive when your minion wave attacks the enemy minion wave. The silence is always good just because then when you pull an enemy Battleborn in, they can't use any skills. So that just makes it so that not only do they get pulled within combat range, but now they can't use a skill or they can't use a skill for a quick getaway. And then to the right side, the extra damage over time, that's just always good because a lot of times enemies will run into your desecrate field not thinking anything of it, and if you have damage over time, they'll just slowly have their health drained, and they really won't know exactly what's going on. But now if you look at level 5 here, level 5 is another one where Galilea has quite a few good choices. The left side is health regen, the center choice is increased attack speed, and the right choice is increasing her corruption. I usually go with the left side just because I pair this with her level 3 choice that makes her deal basically double damage at full health, and so I want to keep getting her to full health, and so the increased 21 health regen per second, that's just always good, and you'll get that whenever you attack enemies, so it's always going to be coming back. It's something that you always keep with you basically. And then the increased attack speed is always good, but like I said, the level 3 choice doubles her attack damage, so I'd rather heal myself up to keep myself at double damage than go without healing and have an increased attack speed of 16% at just normal damage. It's better to be at double damage at regular attack speed than to be at regular damage at plus 16% attack speed is basically the way that I think it through. And then the right side, the faster corruption gain. I don't really think the corruption is all that useful, so I've never really chosen that choice. So let's go ahead and look at level 6 then. Level 6, this one, both of these choices are good. It's hard to say which one's better. I will usually use the one on the left if I'm using healing within Desecrate, just because the extra 3-second duration gives extra healing that can come from it, and you also get the damage amplification in it, so that's always good. But if I'm not doing the healing with the Desecrate, a lot of times I'll go to the right just to get the extra health regeneration, because I will always want to be healing as Galilea to keep her health at full. So either one of these is good. It just kind of depends on what you have chosen for your additional benefits on Desecrate, whether or not you chose Desecrate to silence enemies, whether you chose to slow enemies, or whether you chose to heal allies. That's really what it's going to come down to. If you chose it to heal allies, then increasing the duration of Desecrate is always good, but if you didn't, then choosing to the right on level 6 is a lot of times the way to go. But level 7 now, the left side gives you a 35% reflect chance on your shield. Like I said, you spend a lot of your time as Galilea with your shield up, so if you can just reflect 35% of that damage out back at enemies, you're going to get a lot of damage on enemies just from blocking what they're trying to do to you. It's really a lot of fun to do stuff like that. And then on the right side, the increased 18% damage without her great shield, that's great, except for the fact that you really don't want to be without your great shield as Galilea. Whenever you throw that great shield, if you miss somebody, you basically want to sprint, get that great shield, and then resume playing. So if you're playing Galilea and you find yourself without your great shield a lot of the time, you're basically playing her wrong, and you either need to find a new way to play her or just quit playing her. Then if we go to level 8 here, this one, you can get a slow on Desecrate, you can get an increased area of effect radius, or you can increase its movement speed. Well, if you want to slow them, that's always great, just because then you have a stun and a slow, so anyone who tries to run away, you pull them back to you and then they're slow, and so then they can't get away from you even while sprinting. The increased area of effect radius is great just because Desecrate is always good. Like if you have healing, that'll just give you an extra area of effect radius to heal allies, or if you've got a silence, it'll be an increased area of effect to silence enemies, as well as it makes it so that the pull on Desecrate can pull from a much longer range. You can get some ridiculous pulls, especially on maps like Overgrowth or Monuments, when enemies are at different altitudes, when they're on different heights than you, and you pull them from below. That increased area of effect of 50% makes you pull them from places where they don't expect it at all, is the best way to put it, I guess. One of the spots is on Overgrowth on the window. If you're on Overgrowth on the window, you can have somebody back on the stairs, and if you're Galilea and you pull them from below the window near Shock Turret, you can actually get the pull on them. It's nuts. It's really a great way to initiate combat as a Galilea. And then on the right side, the increased 30% movement speed. This one is really underhyped. People really don't like to use it all that much, and I'm not entirely sure why, although I am in that camp. I usually go for the slow. I like to use Galilea to kill Battleborn, but the 30% movement speed, not only will it quicken Galilea, but it'll quicken your allies, so if you use it on your minion wave, you can actually get your minion wave to quickly run through the enemy team's control or their area, and so you can gain map control just by giving movement speed to your minions. But I usually go either left or center on here. The right one is a good choice though, so don't be afraid to choose that one. And then level 9 here on the left side, the increasing the damage of shield throw. You can choose that, but you don't really do damage with Galilea unless you're doing her primary attack. Everything else is just setting up her primary attack or things like that. So I don't increase the damage on her shield throw ever. The right side, I will always choose this one simply because when you hit someone with shield throw, the increased movement speed makes it so that you'll sprint over to them quicker, so they have less time to get away. And then that's just always good because when you stun them, you want to kill them real quick, so you got to get there as quick as you can. And then level 10 here, you can either increase the area of effect of Galilea's ultimate or make her corrupted while she's in her ultimate. I usually go for the corruption during her ultimate because the ultimate already heals you 250 health, and then you'll get 21 health regen per second at full corruption, and so you'll get over basically like 300 healing from the both of those. You'll get like 350 healing from both of those just from every use of her ultimate. So it's a good way to just kind of use her ultimate, get out of the battle, and then come back in later. That's really the way that I like to level her up through her Helix build. So then the only thing remaining is her gear, and if you look at this gear again, the one thing you're going to notice that's common throughout almost all of my gear setups is one thing that I have on each character is either extra health or shields. The health and shields is just to keep them alive, because there's certain ultimates or skills that can really almost kill all characters. Like if I'm at half health at Galilea and an Orendi does an ultimate and my shield's not up, I'm a dead man. But if I add this extra health on there, I might be alive. Or if I get Hawkeyed by Benedict and I'm weak, that extra health can be what keeps me alive and keeps me from having to wait to respawn. But that's the first choice I use is Galilea, is just that extra health, just to keep myself alive a little bit more. The second one is extra healing received, and the healing received bumps up a lot when my shield depletes. That's helpful as Galilea just because I use the level 3 upgrade that gives her extra damage while at full health. So when my shield is up, my healing's not as great, but when my shield goes down, the healing goes up even more. So that just allows my healers to heal me back up to full health while my shield is gone at a quicker rate, which will give me a lot more extra damage. And then finally with Galilea, and this is another one you find in most of my gear setups, is a shard generator. That's just to allow myself to buy a bunch of buildables and level up quicker than the enemy team. If you got levels on the other team, they're going to have a lot of time or a lot of trouble keeping up not only with your damage, but with all the aspects of your skills. You'll unlock your ultimate before them. You'll get extra damage. You'll get more health. Leveling up is the most important thing in this game. If you really want to help your team out, you want to get that level advantage, and so I always add shard generators to just about every class that I have.